Hello and welcome to the World Economic Forum at Davos. I am Siddharth Zarabi, and joining me now for a conversation is Smriti Irani. Here at the forum, someone who was a young global leader way back in 2015, a senior politician very well noted for her recent work in the government, and now the chairperson of the Gender Alliance here at the forum. Smriti ji, thank you very much for joining us here today. The sun has come out and the sun is also shining on the India story here. This is one of the largest turnouts that we have seen in Davos in recent times, but clearly everywhere we go, whoever we speak to, the context for India's growth is not escaping anyone.
I think that being the world's largest consumption market has its own advantages. Apart from a government delegation, you see industry captains across the forum engaging with the best of talent across the globe, especially inclined towards technology. Now, that technology need not necessarily be restricted to AI, but I have seen very, very intense conversations around biotechnology and global health. There is no escaping that the forum is a place where the best of talent between policymakers, statesmen or stateswomen and industry comes together. But what gladdens my heart is that there is also room for negotiations and conversations for small businesses here. There is potentially an understanding that no enterprise is small enough to engage on. I have been a part of interesting conversations on social enterprises, given that the West now geopolitically stands extremely fractured. Those who are in the social impact business per se, they recognize that there is a need to restructure governance methodologies so that commercial capital can flow better through them, that they can scale. And such enterprises and investment partners are looking at the India opportunity.
You've been here many times. I want to ask you, sometimes skeptics say, what really is the outcome of WEF? There are 10 states. The union government is here. You are here yourself, and a very large industry contingent. Just for the benefit of those who might not fully appreciate the significance, is it okay to have any doubts about the outcomes that can be generated from such an event?
So, Siddharth, I've been at the forum not only as a YGL, but I've also been at the forum as a cabinet minister and now in my personal capacity. And from three lenses and three perspectives, I can say only this. This is a convergence of investment opportunities where you can clearly identify intent, where you can clearly exhibit leadership capacities in your country, and where you can clearly be measured on how administratively you've delivered on promises. That in India, in the recent times, in the last decade, we've seen Prime Minister Modi deliver on issues of technological governance, on issues of monetary policy, which is more flexible given the challenges that we have seen, especially in the last 6 years globally. I think that the Prime Minister, in fact, has set the agenda. It is incumbent upon us Indians to present it so that we can collect and assimilate more opportunities from an investment perspective for our country. I'll give you a very small example. Yesterday we had, and because my lens here is completely focused on gender, and I don't do rights-based conversations, my whole intent is to create opportunities for enterprise and economically impact back home. We've had an announcement of a $40 million investment in Ayush. For women's health, hormonal health, brain health, bone health. Now, these are announcements that never happen at the forum. But are we limited to just announcements? No. Our intent was that we have female leadership in the enterprise. The pharmaceutical company one engaged with has ensured that there's a female leading. So that's a one tick for me as somebody who's a gender advocate here. The other is that the Prime Minister's intent was that issues such as our traditional medicine systems, Ayush, Ayurveda, find a global platform. So it's a win on that checklist as well. We are here to bring together investors so that women who own small businesses in India get not impact funds, but actually have investors who can invest in institutions that combine profit and purpose together. So we are here to raise $100 million, of which we've already raised $2 million in the last 48 hours. And that money flows to women-owned businesses which are small, who will never find a place, let's say, at a forum such as this, who will never sit at the table of money. We are taking that money to them. So it depends on the Indian who engages at this forum. What do you take back home?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you made that clear. Let me also take this context in terms of how India is viewed in terms of its political stability. There's been criticism of the Ladki Behan Yojana, which is very clearly to empower women, having a negative impact on the fiscal. But yet you see real social outcomes, health outcomes, education-related outcomes on account of some money being available to women to spend on. With that backdrop, how would you describe India's political stability, and now with the Mumbai municipal elections also very clearly, what kind of signal is it sending to global investors, particularly given the uncertain environment in South Asia?
I think that your question has many subparts. One is investment in women draining the treasury. I have a different perspective to it. Let's say the Prime Minister talking about building toilets separately for girls at school. A decade ago, the intent was to curb dropouts of young girls. Has he succeeded? Absolutely. He has created that infrastructure and he has curbed dropouts for young girls from schools. Those girls are not of voting age. So there was no political promise or no political goal at the end of the rainbow for the Prime Minister. However, he did it because that was a moral imperative. But let's look at the flip side of it. If I invest something in women's small enterprise, you remember you've had institutional memory from the financial markets in our country, and one of the very rare ones in reportage in the financial world in our country. Women before 2014, there was an outcry about them not receiving enough fiscal support to start small businesses because they did not have fixed capital assets, that they did not have uninterrupted work cycles. And that's when Mudra came in. It was not a gendered fiscal policy. However, it was a policy that worked for women, and 70% of the offtake was done by women. Now, when you talk about Ladki Behan, and you look at numbers from the industry where rural economy is seen a surge, especially in the FMCG self-care segment, where do you think that money is coming from? So even if some people mistakenly credit it as a dole, has it increased purchasing power in our rural economy? It indeed has, and industry has evidenced it.
A quick follow-up on that. In terms of women's participation in the workforce, I asked you this question in the backdrop of the new labor code that is rolling out even as we speak. What have we done right and what more needs to be done?
I think I have consistently said this over a decade, even as a policy maker, that the way we count women's participation still needs to be refined. And I say this because we have established through Prime Minister Modi's leadership that close to 90 million women in self-help groups receive government fiscal support through financial institutions where money is going straight to the self-help groups. NPA is less than 2%. The transactions that one sees in annual volumes is close to $37 billion, which means that these women have showcased that they are very adept at handling that money. They are very disciplined in their engagements with the financial institutions. The question is, do they get counted as those who are contributing financially or economically They don't. They don't. There are many women who are doing small businesses where the capital need is not more than $50,000. Do they get counted? Because they are a part of the informal sector, they do not have enough economic capacity and are not robust enough to even measure up to the GST benchmark. Do they get counted? They actually don't. You have 90% of the agricultural labor, which is female but informal. Do they get counted? They don't. So if you start counting all these verticals, especially in the informal sector, and I say this because there was earlier description that informal sector means you have no pension, you have no health plan, and you have no work days off. if you're giving birth to a child. Now, look at what Prime Minister Modi has done. He's given you a pension scheme. He's given you an insurance scheme. He's given you Ayushman Bharat. So he's covered all those challenges that people in the informal sector were facing. That being said, now are we counting those women? We are not. So the problem is not that women are not working. The problem is that they're not getting counted completely.
That's a very important point. Coming back to the Davos theme, this is a place that shapes global narrative, especially in the economic space. What is that one global narrative, Smriti Irani, that you think is completely misplaced about India, and what is that one that you think is right?
I think that there is a need to be consistent in narrative building. We cannot go from one topic or one agenda to another just because we want to build narrative. It is consistent, it is cyclic, and it has to be precise enough given the explosion of technology to take into consideration everyday, every minute events. Every minute today in narrative building is breaking news. So how do you create a robust system which responds? And the response cannot be a siloed response. There has to be a partnership between industry, government, civil society to say, if we want more investments into India, then how do these three verticals work together so that we project a united front and then have investments flow? That is a challenge in a democracy. It's easier done in a country like China.
But quite some of your time is now going in that.
I'm doing my best. I've had the greatest privilege of serving with Prime Minister Modi. So one has that institutional memory of how the boss works. One also knows what his expectations of civil society and industry captains are. And then one has that unique opportunity of bridging all of that and then have international partners that one can narrate the India success story to.
Okay, one final question, and I know it's not about the politics, but very clearly this is also being noted all across the world, which is not just political stability, but political dominance of your party. And Mumbai being the latest example, it's now triple engine ki sarkar. Delivering on those expectations, not within India but globally, that there is cohesion and political cohesion in execution. How significant is that, Smriti Irani?
I think given our bursting population, given that there is a huge desire to urbanize life a lot, given that system, especially in a city like Mumbai, which is where I got my first economic break, I recognize that many oscillate to cities because there's a presumption about the pot of gold that is waiting in that city, and that the city's infrastructure then is strained. So while Prime Minister Modi at the center has provided for a policy architecture where capital can flow not only from the treasury but also have private participation, there is much that can be done. I recognize that from a political party like the Bharatiya Janata Party, there is huge expectation because the standard has been set by none other than Narendra Modi, and there is an expectation that down the line, as it percolates, everybody will measure up and be a Xerox of him. So we are mere mortals. I'm sure everybody will give it a shot, but as long as you have the mothership and Narendra Modi watching over, you can be rest assured that the Chief Minister will deliver.
Smriti Irani, thank you very much for putting that so nicely. Thank you very much for your time. With that, it's a wrap on this conversation. We'll keep coming back with many more. Until then, goodbye.